Hello and welcome to Bunny Hop. My name is George Weedman, and we have Courtenay Taylor with us today, a very prolific female voice actress. You were Jack in Mass Effect 2, and also
and
Ada Wong, and Ada Wong in the recent Resident Evils. And I guess you've also been around for a while, since like 2002, I think is when you started.
Yeah.
Ish.
That was my breakout role in American Idol.
The video game version of American Idol, right?
Yes.
Drink your juice, Rodriguez. You couldn't destroy wet tissue paper.
Maybe he's trying to manipulate me. I hate playing other people's games.
When you're doing something silly though, like Resident Evil, it's like all campy and doesn't take itself as seriously though. How aware are you of the overall silliness of a lot of video game plots?
I feel like when I go in, and this is such a actor answer, but I feel like when I go in, I don't really attach any the kind of judgment on what's going on. The great thing about being a voice actor is that you get to pretend, and so if it's something that's maybe a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, it's still just as fun to pretend that stuff as opposed to something that's really straight. And so I guess I'm not particularly aware. It's really, for me, about being, when you're like 5 years old and you're playing something, you're really playing something. You're not like, oh, I'm playing at this. So
how much prep time goes into, I don't know, researching or preparing for a character after you get the gig before you actually start recording lines?
They don't, usually we audition, and then it can be anywhere from like a week to a month or two before we start. And oftentimes when we get booked for the role is, when we find out, but we don't really get scripts in advance or anything. So we don't get a lot of prep time. It's very much on the fly. Sometimes I'm working on a game currently where I've literally been like, let me just read the line before we record it because I don't know what I'm about to say. So it sort of depends on the size of your role. You'll get more background in the room. Sometimes you might get a script in advance, but usually not. So really you have to kind of do your research for just kind of general acting information outside of the booth and be ready to do anything when you get in the booth.
And speaking of general acting, you've also done some film and animation as well. Does the direction that you get for those genres of projects differ a lot from video games?
The format's a little bit different in that it's very much broken up in video games, and so we'll do a line maybe 3 times and move on, as opposed to, I was just working on something where we have like a closing monologue, and they were breaking it up into chunks, and it's the pretty emotional, sort of the denouement of the game. And I was like, can I just actually just run it through like an on-camera monologue?
So it's kind of segmented line by line. So
it just depends on the company and on the director. The directions for animation are usually kind of faster, funnier. Hit this. Whereas on camera stuff, it really depends too on what you're doing. If you're doing a television show, you might not get, in a smaller role, you might not get any rehearsal time. You just go and do what you did in the audition. Or I've had experiences working where it's been super minimal, and other times people are really it's rare, but the times that you get a lot of direction are great.
So across all those experiences over the past 12 years when you've been working, have you noticed any real significant change in the way video game voice actors are directed over the course of your career?
Well, I think the storylines have gotten more fleshed out, and so there is we do get a lot more direction depending on the game and what the role is. But I think the storylines have improved and gotten so much more fleshed out that there is the need for more direction, because there's so many kind of games that have huge arcs, and so it's not necessarily just throwing grenades and running around. Although those games obviously are very popular, that's a different kind of direction. I'm working on a game right now that is like a military format. And so even though there are a lot of military barks, it's very specific what they want. So there's a lot of direction, even though it's not this huge emotional thing. And then I'm working on another game where there's a lot of emotional stuff, and they're like, just go, just do what you do. So it's project to project, but I'm really happy that it seems like games are getting so much more fleshed out and have so many more options and a bigger world to play in.
Yeah. And as an experienced voice actor who's been doing it for over a decade, do you have any advice for newbies trying to get in the business?
I studied at American Conservatory Theater, and so I had an acting background coming into it, and everyone says the same thing, but it is so true. Work on your acting skills, work on your cold reading, because we don't get a lot of prep time. And so, take an improv class, be ready to pick the stuff off the page as fast as you can, because that's what's going to bring people back to working with you over and over, is that ability to be reading something and be emoting it, even if it's the first time you've read it. And that really comes from those things. And we get to play more now, so improv really comes in handy.
Okay. And I guess, do you think this kind of work is going to go away anytime soon? It seems like...
For me?
if video games keep up having decent storylines and what, then I imagine that even as more people try to become voice actors, there might be more roles for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the media today, people always say, like, oh, there's YouTube. I mean, the world has cracked open with all, like, the areas where you can do smaller.
Oh, like I started this thing. I actually occasionally could use voice actors every now and then for some projects I do, because media is democratized now, and I'm suddenly in that role too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different outlets for people can actually make stuff at home with the technology that we have today. So I feel like I always take the tack of it, there's enough for everybody. You will get your slice of the pie, no matter how many people want to do it. The jobs that are for you will come to you. Okay. So.
And lastly, as a female voice actor, how do you feel about the representation of female characters in gaming? Do you think that's improving, or this is still kind of stagnating over the past 12 years that you've been involved in voicing them? I think
it's gotten much better. At least for me personally, I can only speak from my own experience, but I definitely am starting to see a lot more characters with a great backstory. Obviously, I played Jack in Mass Effect, and she had a great emotional arc, a great storyline, and I'm starting to see the options for more playable female characters, and that's huge. I think people are writing better roles for women all the time, and I really urge anyone who wants to go into game development as a writer to craft better roles. I mean, how many people played FemShep? A lot of people played FemShep because, she was really interesting, and BroShep is great too, but I think that was a defining moment of that girls can be just as interesting in games and kick just as much ass. So I really hope that is a trend for the future, and I am working on something now where there is a playable female and a playable male character. And
there's a lot of people online. I think the general sentiment is that actually a lot of fans like the voice acting for female Shepard better than the male Shepard. But yeah, anyways, if you have anything else to add in, I think that's all the questions I had planned for us today.
Just like I said, if you're getting into doing game development, make it awesome. Write great, fully fleshed out characters. Study hard, fresh and floss. And thanks for having me.
Yeah,
this has been really great. Dragon Con's been awesome. So
cool. Thanks. Have a good day and have a good rest of the con.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You still have 30 seconds.
But
that just means